So I am joined by my colleagues Tanya Rohrbach, who is the Community Planning Manager at New Jersey Future, and Evan Garcia, who is a Community Planner at New Jersey Future. Tanya worked closely with Sustainable Jersey to create the Community Design for All Ages action based on a community guide for age-friendly land use planning that she authored. And Evan and Tanya work with communities across the state on age-friendly planning. So now I'm going to turn it over to Evan, who will be presenting about age-friendly design policy and also on community engagement. Evan?
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Alicia. Thank you all for joining us. Very happy to have you all here. So to start, I'll be giving a little bit about my background. For over 3 years, I was a GIS analyst and demographer with the school district planning team. And after that, I was a city planner for a municipality in North Texas. Thank you all for joining us today. And I believe we're all here because we have a shared passion for advancing community design for all ages. And we really want to be a part of positive change in our communities. So today's workshop is about adopting an age-friendly design policy and community engagement. This is the second of 3 workshops in our series. So we hope to see you in the upcoming workshop next week as well. And we're excited to be diving into this with you all and look forward to hearing your questions at the end. So before I start, I want to give a quick overview about who we are and what we do. New Jersey Future is a nonprofit, non-government land use planning and policy organization. We advance smart growth principles to promote healthy communities across New Jersey. And we do this work through research, policy work, advocacy, and providing technical assistance. So today I will start by giving an overview of the age-friendly communities and overview of the community design for all ages action. And if you attended the previous workshop, this part will be familiar because we'll be repeating this information for folks that did not attend the first workshop. And then I will describe 2 components of the action to explain how to complete them. The first being developing that age-friendly design policy for the town to adopt by municipal resolution. And the second is to conduct community engagement by either doing a survey or having focus group sessions. And then to finish, we will have time for Q&A. Now, what is age-friendly? The concept of age-friendly communities was started by a World Health Organization effort that aims to improve livability for aging populations across the globe. And people across the entire age spectrum need access to affordable and diverse housing options, efficient transportation, and opportunities for social engagement. But we know that these needs can be more compelling for older people. The inclination for older people to have more restricted income, mobility, and social networks means that community design can determine whether they're able to continue living in a community and whether they can remain socially engaged and physically active. Its effects can also determine if older residents are compelled to move away or are at a greater risk for social isolation as they age. The Community Design for All Ages action in the Sustainable Jersey program was created using the New Jersey Future Community Guide to Implementing Age-Friendly Land Use Decisions resource as a best practice. The guide and the action both provide a framework for kickstarting or advancing an age-friendly initiative. The guide provides an effective step-by-step process for anyone in a community looking to initiate aging-friendly community design implementation. The guide walks through a community effort to conduct an age-friendly land use assessment, which evaluates the ways communities are arranged in terms of spatial patterns of development, building designs, and how accessible public amenities are. The Community Design for All Ages action has components that correlate with the steps in this guide. So we understand every community is different and will be at a different stage in the age-friendly process. Some towns may have a well-established initiative, and others are just now finding out about age-friendly. So this action is structured to make sure that no matter your stage in the process, there are components of this action you can work towards. There are 12 individual components plus an additional component that combines several of the assessment components to develop an age-friendly implementation plan. Each of the 12 individual components is a 5-point component. The implementation plan is 5-point component, the implementation plan, excuse me, is a total of 25 points. And the action is eligible for a total 25 points. So you can choose if you want to do multiple 5-point components or the bigger task of developing that implementation plan. The main component of the action is the age-friendly land use assessment, which is component 3 in the action. This component was discussed in detail in the first workshop in this series. By conducting the land use assessment, municipalities will evaluate the physical features such as sidewalk conditions, streetscape improvements, community facilities, green spaces, and other aspects of the pedestrian environment, including access to key destinations in the community. The assessment also evaluates the town's zoning regulations, looking for regulations that promote mixed-use town centers and a diverse range of housing options. There are also questions on the assessment worksheet that will ask you to assess the municipal plans and policies that may or may not support livability. All of the questions on the worksheet are geared toward livability for all ages, with particular emphasis for older populations. The demographic data profile, which was listed as component 4 in the action, will evaluate the demographics and vulnerabilities of existing and projected older populations. And this component was also described in the previous workshop. In today's workshop, we will focus on the 2 components of the action that involve the age-friendly design policy and community engagement. The 3rd workshop in this series will be next Thursday, February 8th, and we'll focus on the age-friendly implementation plan and implementing age-friendly actions. So other components of the action you may want to consider for your town are to assign an age-friendly coordinator and embed that position within the municipality. Another is to establish a municipal committee to oversee age-friendly efforts and implementation. These 2 components are geared towards establishing long-term, comprehensive, age-friendly initiatives or enhancing existing ones. Components 7 through 12 are geared toward implementing age-friendly land use actions, programs, and regulations. And for this action, each of these components needs to be done in the context of age-friendly community planning. Components 1 through 11 are only some of the municipal mechanisms that your community can use to increase accessibility to housing, mobility options, and better public spaces. Component 12 allows for flexibility to implement actions that were identified in a community engagement and planning process with older adults. So we know that there may be other actions that are not on this list that can be applicable to your community. Those can also earn credit in the Sustainable Jersey program as long as the submission requirements regarding age-friendly land use planning are met. So accompanying these workshops, New Jersey Future is offering technical assistance awards for Green Team municipalities to work on components of this Sustainable Jersey action. Applicants have the option to choose one of 3 project options that complete components of the action. First, developing an age-friendly community design policy. Second, public engagement through conducting a community survey or focus groups. Third, completion of an age-friendly land use assessment. And each of these project options will include a completed demographic data profile as well. The application deadline for this assistance is February 9th, so please apply soon, and we will put the application link in the chat. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about the demographic trends as a state and as a nation. So you can see by this chart on the left, in New Jersey, we're aging quite fast. Our under 20 age cohort has continued to shrink over the past 20 years, while our 50 to 64 and over 65 age cohort has seen the most growth. And this is something that isn't unique to New Jersey. Across the nation, many of our states are aging quite rapidly. On the right, you can see that the total population over 65 has risen to almost 20% in recent years. And this shift in age demographics is unprecedented in our country's history. And it deserves to be stated that today our country is older than it's ever been. So, what does that mean for you and your community? The Community Design for All Ages Action can help you answer that question. So this slide shows the information on the action worksheet submission for component 6 in the Community Design for All Ages Action, which is to adopt an age-friendly design policy. It shows the documentation requirements to receive points for the action. You must upload a copy or a link to the adopted policy that incorporates age-friendly design in all site plans, redevelopment, revitalization or economic development plans, and infrastructure improvements pertaining to pedestrian safety, recreation or civic areas, sidewalks or walking paths, parking, and a mix of housing. The municipality can adopt this policy as a resolution, or it can adopt as an ordinance into the municipal code. So how does age-friendly design policy drive decision-making? It drives decision-making by pledging the intent of the municipality to include age-friendly design principles in its future planning and design and decision-making processes, including in the next master plan revision and re-examination report, redevelopment, revitalization, economic development plans, and in site plan reviews through updates to municipal ordinances. So what can go into an age-friendly design policy? The policy specifically pledges support for the following types of municipal actions: promoting the development of a mix of housing by supporting the construction and rehabilitation of homes that meet the needs of households of all sizes and income levels, installing sufficient pedestrian infrastructure such as seating, lighting, and shade to allow for safe places to walk, move about, and rest while going to and from destinations. Changing the existing pedestrian infrastructure so that it increases safety for older adults, for example, by setting traffic timing to accommodate pedestrians of various abilities, and ensuring that pedestrian cues are clearly visible and audible for older residents. This allows for the appropriate amount of time to cross what may be a significant barrier for older adults to engage within their communities. Designing street parking so that it improves safety between pedestrians and moving traffic along traffic corridors, and implementing traffic calming measures to reduce speeds along well-traveled pedestrian corridors and intersections. Promoting walkability and safe access to recreation opportunities such as trails, outdoor spaces for all neighborhoods in the community. And the community design, so this Community Design for All Ages action includes a sample policy statement with these pledges listed out, and also language for determining the need for the policy. So let's take a minute to talk about ushering in a cultural shift in municipal priority. Most decisions about specific land uses are made by local jurisdictions, which is the municipality. Changes to things like housing, street designs, facility improvements, new rideshare services are all made based on municipal plans, policies, and regulations. These include the master plan, which is the comprehensive vision for the community and the basis for zoning regulations, the development and economic plans, design standards, capital improvement plans and expenditures. So, how do you reorient or redefine the principles of importance in moving forward? The first step could be to adopt a policy that prioritizes the direction of municipal decision making into the future. This will ensure the intent of the municipality to work toward including principles of age-friendly design in the plans, policies, and documents that determine how the land is developed and changed in the future. It's a way to embed age-friendly principles into the mechanisms shown on this slide by which municipalities can influence land use and infrastructure through planning, zoning, design standards, and capital expenditures. So, what determines the need for an age-friendly design policy? The first is for the municipality to recognize that the state is undergoing a significant demographic shift. At a local level, this will have very real impacts on our communities as jurisdictions will find ways to respond to the needs of an aging population. Second is realizing that the needs of people are different as they age. The greater tendency for older adults to be socially isolated, physically inactive, or mobility restricted means that the built environment of communities should not exacerbate these issues, and it should actually improve livability by making it easier to live and engage in a community. So, what is good community design for older residents is also good community design for everyone. We are really lifting everyone up when we design a community for all ages. So, how long does it take to get a policy adopted, and how long will it take to see change? The change doesn't happen overnight, but small steps taken now can have a big impact on your community's future. Adoption of an age-friendly policy can take 1 to 2 months while the policy is drafted by staff and reviewed by decision makers. And it can take longer if deliberation is needed. You can use the draft policy provided as part of the Sustainable Jersey Action as a starting point, or you can adopt the draft policy without any changes. But regardless, you will, of course, need to have a public comment period in order to gain the input and feedback from residents. And this is an important time that can be used to increase awareness in an age-friendly community initiative. So, for example, this age-friendly policy could be the first thing you do in the Sustainable Jersey Action, and community engagement in a survey or focus group would be a great way to then build off the momentum gained from articulating and adopting a policy. So while a policy may not take much time, realigning the key plans, master plans, re-examination report will take time. And ultimately, the end goal is to implement the changes necessary to follow through on the pledges of the policy. And this can be the hardest step. So, for changes made by the municipality to be indicative of the needs of the community, there should be a community engagement component. So, you can see on this slide, component 5 of the action is to conduct a community survey and or focus group. The submission requirement is to upload a copy of the survey and or focus group questionnaire or protocol and include a narrative description of how the survey or focus group interviews were conducted. A copy of the survey results, if you did one, and also provide a narrative interpreting the results for application in an age-friendly initiative. For this component, you could do a survey or conduct one or more focus groups, or do both a survey and focus groups. So a survey and or focus group provides a great opportunity to determine the needs and next steps of the community. There is a guidance for soliciting community opinion document that can be found in the action resources, and this can help you determine which is the best to pursue for your community. Or, of course, you can do both. A survey can reach everyone in the community, but it takes substantial outreach and marketing to ensure a representative set of responses. It's it's also important to ensure the survey questions are well designed, and then the results will need to be tabulated and interpreted. These things can make a survey require more capacity and resources than a focus group. Surveys provide a broad understanding of the general community perceptions. The responses of a survey are typically multiple choice and don't allow people to explain why they answered a certain way. Focus groups provide an opportunity for people to explain their responses. And focus groups can target specific participants and foster conversations. So while a survey needs a good design, focus groups need a good facilitator to guide the conversations and collect information from them. They don't, however, provide quantitative data to measure improvements over time. So before you dive into one of these options, there's a number of things to take into consideration. First, how will the results be integrated with municipal decisions and processes? Consideration should be given to how results will be compiled and assessed, and how they might be used to initiate change in policy or address specific issues. Gaining responsibility from the town that the results will be part of decision making will be an excellent way to convince residents to participate and that their voice matters. An adopted resolution and letter of commitment from the town manager or mayor will help to provide credence to the survey. Publicizing this letter of commitment among municipal email listservs and community groups will help spread awareness and can help boost public participation. The mayor may consider assigning a liaison to act as an intermediary between the project team and the residents. And of course, the ultimate goal of the survey and focus group is to provide a baseline of indicators that can be used to communicate future areas of importance or implementation. So a survey can paint a picture and provide data that will help assess the community's issues and concerns. It will provide information about the public perception of the community and potential key topic areas. Questions on the survey can help determine if housing needs are being met, the ability of people to age in the community, their perceived access to programming and services, and the accessibility of pedestrian assets that promote walkability and bikeability. And these are just a few of the topics that you can ask about in your survey questions. Ultimately, the aim of the survey is to tell a story that will inform decision makers about issues and assets in the community. It could provide insights into needs of certain groups and how those may or may not be met by current land uses or by municipal policies, regulations, and practices. The action has a link to a sample survey provided by AARP in both English and Spanish, which you can use as a starting point to creating a survey. So designing the survey, be thoughtful and inclusive, and that means meeting with community members representing the diversity of the town in terms of ethnicity, gender, neighborhood, age, and socioeconomic status. Make an effort to be inclusive and equitable at early stages. consider the need for versions in other languages, potentially target all adult age groups to capture the needs and desires of upcoming seniors or caregivers, include topics, questions to meet overlapping needs, and for example, the built environment and social health services, Sustainable Jersey Action, and AARP network application are just a few of overlapping potentials. And then consider pre-testing the survey with a small group to identify problems with any questions prior to sending it out. So there are multiple ways to deliver the survey, and each of them have its pros and cons. The survey can be distributed online, on paper, through the mail, via telephone, through one-on-one interviews, or a combination of approaches. They have different costs and response rates. Most communities use an online platform like SurveyMonkey and have paper versions available for those who need it. Regardless of how the survey is administered, advertising, outreach, and marketing of the survey should be done through various media sources and multiple points leading up to and during the survey. Use existing networks where older residents already get information, such as print newspapers and senior center flyers, as well as the typical outreach methods of social media and the town's website. Face-to-face interactions is always a great way to spread the word, and having a team to do this really helps boost the number of responses. For interpreting the results, a first step is to evaluate, excuse me, for interpreting the results, a first step is to evaluate if the data from the survey results is representative of the demographics of the population. If not, you need to do additional outreach. Evaluate the responses for key takeaways about livability. Do most community members think they can age well in the community? Or is there a significant amount of people who find it challenging as they get older? Are there specific community features that stand out as being issues, such as walkability and safe street crossings, or transportation or housing options? Have you gathered sufficient information to move forward? If there are responses that need further explanation, consider doing a focus group or having a community meeting to discuss certain questions on the survey. Once the survey has been completed and the results are in, now is the time to ask, how can we use this to make our community better? The survey will likely identify issues for improvement and also things about the community that are appreciated by the older population. This information can inform an action plan for enhancing the things that are working well and filling the gaps for things that aren't. The benefits of conducting a focus group can be quite different than that of a survey. While they both work to gain community input, the focus group does this through one or more targeted community meetings with relatively small groups of people that provide information about why participants respond a certain way. A survey is more of a blunt instrument and can collect many more responses, but it tells more about what people think than why they think that way. It can be beneficial to conduct focus groups after conducting a survey because it's an opportunity to have conversations about some of the survey findings. Generally, focus groups require less planning and expertise to prepare and administer compared to a survey. Focus groups allow community members to drive the conversation because they bring up topics and issues, thoughts and perceptions about community problems, and suggest solutions to address those problems. Both of these community engagement approaches can help the municipality assess the strengths of the community and potential challenges or deficiencies. They can be good tools for an age-friendly initiative and to get community feedback regarding action steps to make the town more livable. And the action has a link to the AARP Community Listening Session Toolkit, which provides step-by-step guidance for conducting focus group type meetings. So we encourage you to look at that. So when administering a focus group session, make sure the setting and conversation doesn't have barriers that prevent or inhibit participation. The most important thing is to have a good facilitator. A good facilitator will help everyone feel comfortable participating, set ground rules for respectful participation, and encourage meaningful dialect. The facilitator's role is to guide the conversation and keep it on the general topic while allowing for the group to lead the discussion. There should be a set of prepared questions for the session, but the facilitator will balance the need to gather information about specific topics with the need for the group to bring up and discuss other related issues. So, a focus group session will capture more community context about a certain topic. Some people will tell you a story, some will give you an example. It provides richer narratives from which to better understand the community. However, there are important questions which must be asked at this stage of community engagement. What are the key points that came out of the focus group session? Were there specific topics of consensus that had been identified by members of the community? What areas of livability can be labeled as high priority issues that represent urgent needs of the community? What were things that stood out during the conversation which have yet to fall under major theme categories? Summarize the focus group meeting by organizing responses and identifying major themes. This process can also be used to establish a focus group protocol for the community. So it's a good opportunity to assess the approach and consider ways to improve it. After the survey and focus group results have been compiled and interpreted, it would be good to report the findings to the citizens and the governing body. For the action, the submission requirement is shown in the box on this slide. It includes a copy of the survey and focus group questions, a description of the process to conduct the community engagement, and then the degree to which the process resulted in targeted and inclusive outreach, a copy of the results, and a description of how the results apply to age-friendly work in the community. In reporting, you should summarize the key assets and challenges identified and priorities for achieving results that will lead to long-term improvements in livability for older populations. And this information can be used to inform other components of the action as well as municipal plans and policies. So, for example, the results can provide a good precursor to conducting an age-friendly land use assessment, which is a component of the action. The community engagement component can also establish a platform for community members to galvanize around and continue their engagement with municipal programs. With diversified viewpoints and insights, the planning process can become more inclusive and make sure that any actions that are implemented are consistent with the needs, hopes, and expectations of the community members. So I'd like to take a few minutes describing some best practices for community engagement. Unfortunately, our guest speaker, our colleague Ben Jobeck, was unable to attend, but he did share his slides for me to present. So now I'll give some helpful tips for planning and conducting community engagement. The first is to start the process early. Early engagement demonstrates that community input is valued and not just an effort to gain acceptance for the project after key decisions have been made. It also reduces project costs and delays by helping to identify community concerns and issues before the project moves too far along. Involving key stakeholders throughout the redevelopment process helps build consensus for successful project outcomes. Community stakeholders might include people who are or may be affected by the project, need to be aware and kept informed about the evaluation and decision-making process, people who can contribute information, resources, or expertise, and people whose consent or approval is important to the success of the project. So before starting community engagement, it's a good idea to have a community engagement plan. And one must think critically about a community engagement plan, as community engagement is an ongoing process. It's not just a one-time deal. So here's how to set yourself up for success when creating your plan. Define an area of study and gather information or data about the study area. Engage the community early and throughout the process. Envision the project as a long-term investment in the area. Ensure that meetings are accessible and accommodate a community's needs. Ensure that a community has the information and resources to participate in a meaningful way. Establish a transparent and credible process and provide timely follow-up. And establish realistic expectations for project goals and community participation. In survey research, such as polling, the way questions are worded or the order in which responses are presented can influence how respondents answer the questions. This is called the framing effect. So good survey questions can help you achieve your goals, but poorly written questions can undermine your efforts and potentially skew results, especially in single question polls. Weak questions can range from those that confuse respondents to questions that are hampered by bias or lead respondents toward a particular response. Excuse me. And here are tips for writing successful questions. Ask more closed-ended questions instead of open-ended questions. Ensure your survey questions are neutral. Keep a balanced set of answer choices. Don't ask for two things at once. Keep your questions different from each other. Let most of your questions be optional to answer. And do a test drive prior to full implementation. Accessibility and engagement and equity work. Those refer to the conditions or strategies that enable the full and equitable participation of community members, particularly those that have been historically marginalized or who come from diverse cultural backgrounds or who have certain specialized needs. In many cases, the most overlooked and neglected forms of accessibility are informational and cultural. So avoid using specific industry jargon that would prevent someone from fully understanding materials and questions. And here are some things to consider. Use multiple forms of communication for engaging and informing the community. Recognize cultural blind spots and language barriers. Choose accessible locations close to transit options and ADA accessible facilities. Overcome scheduling barriers. Ask before choosing times. And provide essential accommodations for folks that may be visual or hearing impaired. So a final thought, community engagement is not something you can do halfway to check off a box. members of the public will know the difference between hearing the community and engaging the community. The most important incentive and engagement work occurs when community members experience a sense of meaning, purpose, and accomplishment as a result of their participation. If community members feel their concerns are being heard and acted upon, if they feel included and valued, if they believe they are making a difference in people's lives, or if they see evidence that their community is changing in response to the actions they participated in, these emotional and meaningful experiences are likely to be far more powerful, motivating influences than a process that just listens to their concerns. So be sincere and intentional to engage people and support their full participation. So thank you very much for attending this second workshop. Please register for the next and final workshop, and feel free to reach out to me at egarcia@njfuture.org. And we look forward to any questions you may have. And now I'll send it back to Alesha, who will moderate the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Evan, for that presentation. A lot of really good information. As Evan said, yeah, we're going to take some time to answer any questions you may have. Please feel free to either raise your hand and I can call your name to unmute yourself, or you can enter questions in the chat. Okay. Evan, did you want to add any final thoughts or talk about the Technical Assistance Award?
Yeah, certainly. So, like I said earlier, we are looking to provide technical assistance to Green Team municipalities to help work on this action. We're looking to help provide assistance on developing an age-friendly design policy, providing assistance in community engagement, and helping towns to work on an age-friendly land use assessment. And all of those project options include a completed demographic data profile as well. So the deadline for submitting for that assistance is February 9th. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me or Tanya, and yeah, very much look forward to hopefully working.
Thanks, Evan. And if there are no questions at all, do a last call here for questions. I'm going to enter the registration for the workshops in the chat now. We hope to see you at the next one, February 8th, the third and final one. Otherwise, have a good rest of your day, and thank you for joining.
Thank you all.
Thank you. This was very informative. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Yes, sir. You too. Thank you.